Good morning, everyone. This is Catherine Clement in beautiful Boulder, Colorado. And you've happened upon the Saturday Morning Mastermind. We do this mastermind every Saturday morning at 10 a.m. Eastern. And right now we're studying the book, to say When You Talk to Yourself by Dr. Shad Helmstetter. I hope I said that right. And if anybody has the book, please put it up on the screen so people can see it. Thank you, Dan. And this week we're on part 2, actually. Chapter 15 is a chapter that's just jam-packed with good stuff, so we're actually splitting it up into more than one part. And Samantha wasn't able to be here with us this morning, but she's doing some traveling, so safe travels out there, Samantha. But we're just glad that everyone joined us, and I'm thrilled to have this many people on the panel. We've had so many people traveling lately that it's been a little bit sparse, so we're glad to have a full panel again and excited to talk about this chapter. I'd like for everyone just to introduce themselves first, please, before we get into it.
Everybody's trying to be polite. So, good morning, everyone. I'm Dan Smith. I live in Boise, Idaho, and weather's been a little crazy here. We go from record-setting high temperatures to almost record-setting cold temperatures in like one day. So, anyway, the weather's a little bit wild here. Welcome, everyone. Glad you're here.
Good morning, everybody. This is Danielle DeLyons. I am now calling in from Brawley, California. I'm at the southeast corner of California, Arizona, and Mexico. I've been moving around a little the last couple of weeks, so I can't tell you how excited I am to be able to be back on the panel with everybody here. Great to see all the old friends and get back into what we love doing on Saturday mornings.
Hey everybody, it's Jason Roberts from St. Petersburg, Florida. It's really terrific to have Danielle back today. It's been a long time. It's great to have you here. And again, great to have Julie on today. Again, it's fantastic. And yeah, great to see Sandy and Dan. And another big shout out to Samantha out there on the road. Hope to see you back here next weekend. But it's great to have everybody on. Looking forward to a great discussion.
Well, good morning, everyone. This is Julia Colon, and I'm coming at you from Bronx, New York. And it's a beautiful Saturday morning here. And hi, Danielle. How are you? Nice to meet you. And hi, Jason. Hi, everyone. And I'm just looking forward to the discussion. Last week was great, and I look forward to today.
Good morning, Sandy Root here in Miami Beach, Florida, and hot and steamy as always, which I love. Good to see you back, Danielle. Glad you're moved and settled, and good to see everybody else, and welcome back again, Julia. Looking forward to the discussion.
Good morning. I was having some problems. Can anybody hear me there? I was having some problems with the Facebook sound and everything. Yeah, nice to see everybody back. Raleigh, North Carolina. Danielle, thought you had got lost. Okay.
I know we were talking a little bit before the hangout started, and I think it's been about a month, but it seems like much longer. We missed her a lot. So, okay, so we're going to start on chapter 15, or actually we started chapter 15 last week, but we're going to be continuing with that. And we had some comments on the pre-mastermind discussion, which I'm going to jump over there and try to read because Samantha said some things and she can't be here today. Also, Christina's traveling, I think, so safe travels to you, Christina, as well. Or she's going to a reunion or something, I think. So Samantha said, "Don't let the shortness of this section fool you. It's super powerful. The biggest takeaway for me was the reminder that even when things aren't going your way, you should still speak positive words about the situation. If all you say is negativity, then you breed more negativity into your environment. If you aren't happy in your job and you keep saying how unhappy you are, you only make yourself more unhappy. If, however, you start talking about the things you do like, even if they are few and far between, you will create more pleasant days for yourself. And with a positive attitude, you open up more possibilities for yourself that may allow you a way out of the current situation. And then BG said, I have to say I'm excited about the thought of starting with the tape talks and implementing those on a daily basis. I also like the ending in this chapter as far as what to say to yourself. You're doing pretty good already, and you're just now getting started. And BG is the wonderful lady that is taking the quotes and putting them on the pictures. What's the name of her thing? Best quote you ever wrote, I want to say. I hope I got that right, BG, because I just love you and love your work, and thank you for following us and being part of our community here. You add so much, especially over on Mindset Mastery Collective. Tell me what you got out of this chapter. Tell me what your biggest take on it was, I guess.
Well, I'll start off. My biggest take on this chapter was the discussion about children and how you have one child who is not motivated or inspired, and then you have one that is, and the one that is most likely to succeed, and the second one that isn't, they could succeed, but it will just be a little bit harder for them. And I'll give you a testimony. When I took my daughter shopping for school clothes, and there was this shirt that she really, really liked. Now, she's 4 years old, and she grabbed the shirt, and she looked at it, and it's a really nice shirt, and she said, I'm worthy to receive. And I looked, and I was like, oh my gosh. I said, where did you get that from? And she said that she heard me say it when I was opening some packages. So I was like, yes, that's what I'm talking about, yes. So when I read this section in the book, it just made me feel like I'm doing the right thing. So she sees me. We're leaders, like it mentions in the book, the managers and so forth. And if you're not managing yourself and how you feel emotionally, how can anyone benefit from you not feeling good about what you do, your job, or your spirit, whatever it is? And this whole transformation not only has affected me, but it has affected my daughter, which was the reason why I do what I do. So it was really nice to read this in the chapter.
I'll jump on out there, and so nice to meet you too, Julia, and thank you for sharing that. Yeah, I like that about the children, and also about the work. I can give you an example that's already just happened this past week. I was down on the internet for about a month, and just the circumstances, and of course, the first thought is to freak out, because most of my business and life is dependent on online activity. Yet I couldn't really with the circumstances I had, and so at first, you're freaking out and not being too nice to yourself, and then you realize it's out of your control and you can change that self-talk. And so I came from a different perspective of, especially because of the line of work I do. I work for myself from home and networking, so I'm using that to an advantage, that I'm going to attract more people because of the story I was able to create by being away. How many people are afforded that type of time freedom, and kind of turning the words around so that in going back to work, all these positive people are coming to me. And, just that self-talk to yourself reflects back into how people respond to you. And it's been pretty amazing the last couple of days, catching up with different business partners and people I was talking to before. They're like, wow, you sound like this new person, and you sound so happy, and I'm excited, and the energy is different. And so people respond to that no matter what it is that you might be doing. So say you're working in a work environment, you still can reflect that into the step in your step when you walk in the door every day, and how you want to approach it. And a lot of it does really start with how you talk to yourself before the situation occurs.
And that's a awesome story, Julia. Thanks for sharing. And Danielle, same thing. You know, and I was thinking, yeah, you know, when we are working on ourselves, it totally rubs off on other people if they're, you know, if they're receptive and open to, you know, changing and looking at their own self-talk. It's funny because I'm dating a guy, and you know, sometimes he'll say something that I see as like he could rephrase that as a better way of saying it in his own self-talk, and so I'll say it in my own version, like maybe. I'm trying to think of an example. Like maybe he would say something like, "Oh, I don't have enough money for that," and I would say something like, "Well, you're abundant and you can have anything that you want," or you know, say it to myself out loud. And he started to catch on, and when he would catch his little negative statements and he'd start to change them around. So it was cool to see, you know, somebody open and receptive to changing like that from my influence, from what I've been doing to work on myself. So it's awesome when you see it rubbing off on other people, like you, Julia, with your daughter. That was awesome.
Yeah, I'll jump out. I'm not sure if I misunderstood what we're doing, but I thought we was just breaking these each one of these individual self-talk messages up, and it was only doing self-speak this week, and I wasn't sure if, you know, maybe I screwed up and didn't read the whole chapter. I mean, I have read the whole chapter, but anyways, this one section of self-speak, what really stands out to me is just basically that everything you say, you're always listening to the things that you say, and that you know, I can remember instances in my past, and maybe the rest of you can relate to this, but I can remember instances in my past where I've been working really hard on my self-speak and the things that I'm saying, and then I'd be talking to somebody else, and I find myself making excuses for why I'm not further along in life, why I'm not where I think that I should be in life. And all of a sudden I realized there's this almost like a disconnect between what my subconscious mind believes, or what I believe, and the negative BS, the bullcrap that's really coming out of my own mouth, you know. And it's like buying my own excuses, you know, and the negative effect that has then on my attitude, you know. And it's like, it's almost, I don't know, I mean, as an example, if you're an honest person and you stole something, and then you're horrified by that you stole something, or something along that line. I mean, it's working so hard on speaking positive and doing that over a long period of time, and then to hear myself making a negative statement to somebody else, and then it's just like being horrified that what's coming out of my mouth is not consistent with what I'm working so hard to believe. And so, you know, just really, you know, on a daily basis, how many negative things that comes out of our mouth, and when you add up just on one day the negative things that comes out of our mouth, and then 2 days, and then a week, and then a month, and over a year's time, how many possibly hundreds of thousands of little negative things do we say that you know, that are coming from our own lips, and your subconscious is constantly listening, and it doesn't differentiate and makes no moral judgment whatsoever between whether you make a negative statement or whether you make a positive statement. Whatever you say, whatever comes out of your mouth, your subconscious mind is going to push, and it's going to do everything it can to bring that into fruition, so to speak. So anyways, I'll let somebody else you know, comment.
Dan, great point there. Yeah, we're on the self conversation thing there, and I like the part here that I didn't get a chance to put it in the discussion. It read there, when you have a self conversation, more of you gets involved. For some time there, I think I shared that with you guys earlier, I had a problem with talking to myself. I thought something was wrong with me. And you see, this is where society takes everything out of proportion. They assume, you know, you've heard the saying, don't always assume. That's the wrong thing to do. And before I say this, and I'll leave this one alone, you know, everybody's circumstances seem like it just seems like strange or weird how things have happened, but and when I said that a while back and put that out that was in my thought process, and then I began to speak it out, I'm like, oh my. I'm just realizing, I am actually realizing just how powerful that good thing inside of us, that's so powerful that you can sit up behind a big machine and drive it, and it's so big, but your mind's bigger than anything you can even imagine. And I'm thinking right now, I would love to abort this situation in my life right now. But I said to myself, no, you can't abort it now because you've already impregnated yourself with it. Now you're going to have to go on and have the thing. I hope that makes sense. So sometimes, you see, what we do say to ourselves, that thing will come and it will birth, and you're going to have to go through it, and you will not be able to abort it unless there's another reason that you might have to. I don't know if that makes sense, but that's just what I'm feeling this morning about this self-speak. Powerful stuff.
Boy, that's it really is powerful stuff, and this is I just love all these examples. That is so cute about your daughter Julia, picking that up, from you, and like Sandy says, I mean, we are having an impact on the people around us by sharing this with them, and so it's not just you in this game, it's you and all your loved ones or all the people that you hang out with that can really benefit from it, and I totally get that, what you're saying there, Dan, where there seems to sometimes be a disconnect, and between what we want our patterns of action to be and what they actually tend to be, and it seems to be that disconnect between our actions and what we're thinking, and this is exactly what we can use to bring everything into alignment. Is kind of how I started to look at it. It's like setting your trim tabs. If you have if you ever work with like a model plane or something like that, where before you even take flight, you got to set your tabs and everything so that you're able to fly on a straight course without having to do a whole lot of control work. And if you don't set your trim tabs right before you get started, you'll be flying around in a circle the whole time, or you'll be having to correct that all day long. So I kind of look at this as doing that and giving us the tools to do that early in the day, early in the morning, and because once we set it, and once we've set it strongly with our emotions and actually set it out loud, and we've got it on our mind, then it sort of guides us throughout the rest of the day, and it's just so wonderful to have that, and it's great to see and hear everybody's stories here. So looking forward to discussing it more. There's so much more to the chapter too. So this is, like Dan said, just one of the methods that we can use to sort of get ourselves in alignment mentally, and looking to there's an old saying, an old example of, if you start looking to buy a certain color car, that eventually after you're looking for it, you're going to be seeing that type of color car everywhere you go, and it's because your mind is now looking for that. So if you set your mind to start looking for the positive things in your life and the positive things in your daily routine, and you're using that gratefulness, and you're in that mindset or in that alignment of looking for grateful things to be grateful about, then there's no room for the negative stuff. So, and it sort of becomes automatic. Set that for yourself early in the day. Thanks.
It does become automatic after a while, although it hasn't become so automatic to me that I don't still trigger on some things, I mean, I'll still get frustrated, but then very quickly I'm like, oh, why am I frustrated? And then I can correct it, but life still is happening to me, and that's good, because otherwise we keep growing, and it's all about the journey, and it's about learning from each one of these situations. And I can give another analogy there, Jason. That was a great one. For the ladies here, I was working on a baby quilt last night, and when you're getting ready to do, I've got another new grandbaby coming soon in October. Very exciting little girl. Um, when you're getting ready to do a quilt, you do something called basting, which you can either do with needle and thread or you can do it with pins. But essentially, you're securing different points on the quilt so that as you start to quilt, everything isn't sliding around and getting out of alignment. And that it's exactly the same way with this type of work and doing your self-talk. It's laying that, it's basting things together so that it's not quite as unstable. So when life does happen, you hit some of those speed bumps. If you've been, excuse me, let me mute just a second. Hopefully that helps. Okay, great. You know, if you've laid this groundwork, if you have this self-talk going, then when life hits you and you hit some of those speed bumps, it's much easier to catch yourself. You know, it's much easier to get yourself back on track, to recorrect, and you know, things aren't sliding around so much because you've basted, you've got that foundation in there. And I did want to jump over. I didn't realize it's Dan Sissick's birthday, so happy birthday, Dan Sissick. I'm so glad that you joined us here on your birthday. What an honor that is. And I wanted to read your comment. You said, I have a coworker that's always negative, and I keep trying to show him that he has the power to change his perspective. And he doesn't seem to get it. It's frustrating as the energy changes when he's in the room. You know, Dan, that is so true. I just shared a post the other day on Facebook that said, I forget what it said, but something about your energy enters the room before you do. You don't have to even introduce yourself. Your energy has already done it. And that is so very true. You can tell more. My daughter and I were just having this discussion the other day, but you can tell more about somebody before they ever open their mouth, it seems like. In person anyway, and even online, although I think people are a little bit trickier online as presenting themselves as one thing and being something else. But definitely when you're in a room with somebody, and I think even online you can tell a lot if you read between the lines a little bit. But back to the discussion. This is a reason why repetition, like I know I talk about, I think really feeling it and believing it and finding something that you can say that, see, this is the thing. If you say self-talk to yourself, I know they say earlier in the chapter you don't have to believe it. In the last chapter he said you don't have to believe it, just keep saying it because eventually you will believe it. And I'm not going to say that doesn't work, because obviously it does, and many people believe in that are way more successful than me. So maybe I have it completely wrong. But for me, like when I say something to myself and then I hear this chorus of voices in my head say bullshit, then to me that's like, I guess I could keep saying it and they could still keep saying that, but and eventually it would sink in there. But I just think if I can, along the lines of Abraham Hicks, if you're familiar, you know, instead of trying to make that huge jump where I get that bullshit, I think it's just good to scale it back a little bit until I find something that I can honestly believe and feel in my heart. Like, okay, maybe I'm not going to be a millionaire next week, but I'm getting more prosperous every day, or I'm more financially free every day, something like that. Something that I say, oh yeah, I can believe that. What do you guys think?
Real quick. What I totally get what you're saying there, and I think what's being suggested is that we can either change the way we say something like that to ourselves. You know, we can say it in a different way, or we can change the way we're looking at it so that it makes more sense to us, so we don't get that you know, oh, this is BS type response. You know, you can look at, you know, if you want to say, if your thought is to say, well, I'm a millionaire, I'm already a millionaire. I mean, you can look at it as to say, well, the money that's going to make me a millionaire is out there, and it's trying to get its way to me via the universal intelligence if I open myself up to it. And if that makes more sense to you, then you could use an idea like that is all I wanted to say real quick. So I love what you're saying there, though.
Yeah, no, yeah, I agree with what you're saying, Catherine. You know, like, yeah, you need to make the affirmation something that's believable. So I forget how you said it in that voice. It was perfect. The little voices, how they come in. But yeah, I've heard that, you know, before, like using something that's believable in reality, time, space, whatever that, of, you know, when you can receive something and how much and this and that. Makes a difference for sure, rather than us negating it. And yeah, I was laughing, Dan, when you used the word horrified by your self-talk, because I can relate. There was a time recently, you know, I've talked a lot in the past about how I was very on top of doing like my daily rituals with like recording my voice and reading things that I've written down and affirmations and saying them out loud and doing all this thing, and I saw major transformations in my life, and things were great and going, and I sort of just let those routines sort of flutter away, and then, you know, maybe a month or two later, I noticed like old, you know, negative thoughts creeping back in, and like the thoughts that, like Dan said, that were horrifying me, like, what, where did that come from? And realize, you know, how important it really is to stick to something every day, that to get us in the right mindset, to keep our thoughts aligned with what we want to be, where we want to go, because they start to creep in, those thoughts, and from society, from just being out in the world and surrounded by other people with different energies, and then all of a sudden you can be in this whirlwind of negative thoughts, and like, where is this coming from? And then it's not mine, it's that person's. And so I think really, as we've been talking about repetition and having that routine, and like in the book he talks about, you know, reading his index cards of self-talk every morning, are super important to keep the momentum going, because if we stop, these things start to creep back in, I've found in my experience. So good to keep the routine going, and like this, like the hangouts we do and stuff like that. So
I agree with you on that, Sandy, and it is a routine that we have to keep going. It's so easy to fall off what we call the bandwagon and allow different thoughts, because they're created over a period of time from habits, things that were kind of wired into us or programmed into us. And I'm working harder on that. I just stepped away from a lot of different things in my life to create new things, and stepped out of certain fears that were holding me back. And it's sometimes when you look back and you reflect on how much further you can go when you're talking positive to yourself and you're writing things down and reading them to yourself, your goals and different things, it changes your perspective quite a bit. And it also goes along with the law of attraction, I believe, because the more that we, you know, like what Catherine was saying about not saying the BS to ourselves, the more believable it is that we're writing down or saying to ourselves, and it's realistic, you know. And then what Jason just added about the money's seeking to find me, you can believe those things if you're doing the things that create the way for the money to find you, or the people to find you, or the circumstances to come your way. And then what are you doing daily towards those goals? And, you know, as we go in through here, I really like how he said how he used those words that he had written down, and it reminded me of the book Think and Grow Rich, because it tells you the same things in there to do towards our goals and things, and how you set the steps, and then you read through the steps daily, and it's a process. It's almost like a ritual to kind of reprogram ourselves in the right direction. And the minute we do stop doing those things, like you said, Sandy, the old habits and things that we did prior, the old thought patterns jump right back at us again. You know, so it is important. Dan, I just know you're jumping to say something, I can tell. And I always love hearing what you have to say.
Yeah, you know, I'm trying to figure out how to put things into words. I got a lot of these thoughts swirling around in my brain, and I know that's probably frightening for a lot of you. But anyway, there's a process called chunking it down, and to go from where you're at in life to be confessing I am a millionaire might be way too big of a jump, like what you're talking about, Catherine, and I don't dispute that whatsoever. So you might have to chunk that down a little bit, and you know, I know as a comparison, you know, I painted houses for 36 years, and so if you go to say a 5,000 square foot house, you don't finish that overnight. That's a process. That takes a long time to paint that big of a house when you're doing the whole thing inside and outside, and you know, that whole process, that takes time, and so I couldn't go turn in a bill before I'd even started the house and expect to get paid on it, because I had to go through that process. I had to go paint portions of the house over a period of time, and so I had to chunk that thing down into bite-sized chunks, so to speak. But I have an old tape series. I can't even think of the guy's name right now, and I don't even know where I got this. I think that my wife had it before we got married, and anyway, what he talks about on here, he says that most people affirm the visible reality. Most people affirm the visible reality. And when you affirm the visible reality, that keeps you in the visible reality. Okay? So you have to push it out there a little bit farther than where you're at right now. Otherwise, you'll stay stuck. And as an example of that, in the scriptures, you know, and I hate to beat this, but it says that we walk by faith, not by sight. You walk by faith, not by sight. And there's a sentence that I've got several books, and I've watched different things that this guy does. He just died just a few months ago. His name's Charles Capps, and he's a Southern preacher, and his voice and his accent could really turn you off, you know. But if you get past some of that real, you know, he sounds like a hick that he just came in from the sticks, okay. But if you get past some of what he says, and I can't prove this and I can't disprove it, but anyway, he makes a statement, and supposedly, you know, God told this to him, but he says, I have told my people that they can have what they say, but my people are saying what they have. I'm going to repeat that. I have told my people they can have what they say, but my people are saying what they have. And so when you get stuck in saying what you have, that self-talk that you're saying and hearing over and over and over again, it's like, I don't have the money, I can't afford that, you know, just on and on and on it goes. Little things that we say, and we say them every day. I can't afford it. I can't afford it. I can't afford it. I can't afford it. So what is your subconscious here? Can't afford it. Can't afford it. Can't afford it. Can't afford it. And so then it keeps you stuck in that place in life. And there again, go back to that first thing, that most people affirm the visible reality. But the scripture says we walk by faith, not by sight. Okay? And so there's let's see, the book, The Science of Getting Rich, he talks about that at length in The Science of Getting Rich. And so your visible eyes tell you where you're at in life, okay? And so if you take all of your cues from what your visible eyes see, then that's what's going to keep you stuck where you're at. But in order to move forward, you have to fantasize. You fantasize in your mind. You build an image in your mind of where you want to be, and then you support that with your self-talk. So it goes from fantasy to a theory, and then your self-talk and your visualization, and then your actions. Your actions move you forward. It goes from a fantasy to a theory to a fact. And so that's the reason why we have to write things down, and we have to massage it. We have to look at it. We have to look at it from different angles. We have to keep writing it down, writing it down, writing it down, speaking it out of our mouth, hearing it with our own ears, visualizing it in our mind. Build a fantasy in your mind. Build a mental image of what you want in your mind, and then and chunk it down if you have to, but then you keep moving towards that. Fantasy, theory, fact. And you keep moving towards it on a daily basis. And then, just as this one sentence here says, I have told my people they can have what they say, but my people are saying what they have. That's where you have to, I understand 100% what you're talking about, Catherine, that little BS person in this, that little voice. It's always, it's always there. But that's the reason why we keep speaking it and speaking it and speaking it, visualizing it, and building that fantasy, building that theory, building that fact, and working towards it, and taking action. So, anyways, I don't mean to capitalize on conversation. I'll let.
Dan, Chris, real quick, let me say again, going back to the speaking to yourself. We're going inside and we're seeing, like the guy said here again, he's a doctor. He was sitting in the airport and he was sitting there talking to himself, right? Have you ever been in the airport, which I'm there just about every day, and you've seen people sitting there and they're talking to themselves and they start talking out loud. There again, you're getting yourself involved. And it goes back to not so much as saying, like what everybody's saying here, it's not so much as having the $1 million. It's the perception of your reality of what because it's $1 million could be a lot of things to a lot of people, not so much in the monetary feeling the concrete of the money. It's the fact of the results, the rewards of your life. Like I said earlier, and just kind of say this and I'll leave it alone again. When I said I had a problem with self-talking to myself, I've learned now as time goes, like Julia said about her daughter there, going back to that. You see, I've had the mixture of mostly the positive, but then as I got with a little bit of age, here comes that society that I would hear the negative. And you always speak to yourself and say, okay, something's wrong here. So if you speak it, yes, you can change it in any time. And I wouldn't so much as say, I would say to myself, that can't be possible. Instead of saying BS, I would say, no, that can't be possible. And it goes back to your personality. If something strikes at you, and again, I would say leaders, when you see in your heart, I've shared this with Samantha, I see in my heart, and I've been speaking it, not so much as leaders coming together money-wise. I don't know. I just see a movement on the internet of leaders coming together. Everybody is a leader in their own rightful way. Okay, but I see a lot of leadership coming together and people following that pattern because people are hungry. They're hungry. And I think a lot of rich folks has read this book here too. In money-wise now, I say it that way. That's just me now. Okay, I'm done.
I'll jump out once again. There's a book called The Magic of Believing by Claude Bristol, and he talks in there about something called the mirror technique. And the example that he says how he discovered it was that he was at a party and there was a really wealthy businessman and he was going to present a new idea to the public, and there was a lot of booze flowing, and he found himself drunk, okay, and drunker than what he wanted to be. And Claude Bristol seen him going to the bathroom, and he thought, well, maybe I better go in there and give the guy a hand because he's pretty soused, And what he says that he did was that he walked in there, and the guy was, leaning over on the bathroom counter, and he was looking at himself in the mirror, and he was talking to himself. And he's saying things like, John, they tried to get you drunk, but you're going to fool them. You're sober. You are sober. You have got to be sober. And he said that he stood there and watched the guy for just 2 or 3 minutes, and he watched the transformation take place. And the guy is, I mean, he was drunk. His face was kind of all saggy out and all that kind of stuff, and he was like mumbling like a drunk person would. But in just 2 or 3 minutes, he stood there and he pierced himself in the eyes, looking at himself in the eyes, and speaking this over and over and over again. You are sober. You've got to be sober. And over just a period of a few minutes, he went from being a sloppy drunk to back to on his game, and he went out and he made just a fantastic presentation. So that's called the mirror technique, and that's one of the things that is vitally important for programming your own mind, is to go look at yourself in the mirror and speak these things. Speak these positive things, what you want to manifest. You speak them, and you speak them into existence that way, and it creates a rift in your subconscious mind between, there's another book here, The Power of the Subconscious Mind, Dr. Joseph Murphy, and he talks about it in that book, where it creates a rift between what you're saying with your mouth and what your subconscious mind is used to having. And it's comparable, I guess, to if any of you ever smoked cigarettes and then quit, the subconscious mind keeps saying, hey, no, send that smoke down here. We're used to having it, and I don't like being without it. Send it back down, and so that creates a rift. No, I want to quit smoking, but your body's saying, no, give it back. I want it. Don't take this away from me. I need to have this. And so it creates a rift in your subconscious mind, and then your subconscious mind has to begin to fight to bring that into manifestation. Your subconscious mind has absolutely no moral judgment whatsoever. You make moral decisions with your thinking mind, what's called forebrain thinking. You make moral decisions with your forebrain thinking or your conscious mind, but your subconscious mind is like a garden plot of soil. And it'll work just as hard to grow thistles as it will to grow corn. It makes no moral judgment whatsoever. It's just dirt, okay? It'll try to grow a rock if you put rocks in there, but the rock is dead. So the soil makes no moral judgment whatsoever about what it grows. And so that's the reason why we speak these words, and the words are seeds, and they go down into your subconscious mind, where they lodge and they begin to grow. And then they bring, just like a tree or just like a corn stalk, they bring forth fruit. And so that's the reason why we speak these things. We walk by faith, not by sight. We build that fantasy, which becomes a theory, and then you take action. And that's what brings about and moves it from fantasy to theory to fact. Okay, and it does create this rift in your subconscious mind, where it's like, well, I'm not really sure what you want here, but I guess I got to start bringing this about. And the subconscious mind says, well, the boss up here, the boss being the conscious mind, the boss thinks that I'm a millionaire, and I'm seeing this rift between what's going on between what the boss thinks and what I brought forth, just like that corn, planting corn. And so then it moves into action, and that's where what I said earlier, that most people affirm the visible reality. Well, if you continue to affirm the visible reality, then that's what keeps you stuck in the visible reality. So I'll let somebody else talk.
You brought up you reminded me of something. Perhaps we need to make a new program for recovering addicts, because I found out, I've never been in their programs, but I found out yesterday that like the AA program, the first thing they have them say is, I am an addict. So that's a hell of a thing to be reprogramming over and over into your subconscious mind, is I am an addict. Maybe we need to turn them on to some of these books that we're studying. I'm going to jump over here to the page again. Oh, look at all these people that are here. Hold on. Let me recognize some of these people. Of course, we know Dan's here with us on his birthday. Well, actually, he said it was Thursday, so we're a little bit late, but we're still celebrating. Dan, we're glad you're here with us. And Heron, we're so glad that you're here with us this morning. And, of course, these are just the people that are commented. I'll jump over and look at the ones that are watching as well. Jim, welcome this morning, and Karen, and Marcia, good to see you here. And let me pick up some of these comments. Karen just wrote, letting our eyes continue to affirm our physical realities sats our ego and keeps us in the status quo. I also saw myself as a person of faith until I sought the answer to my whine, what else do I have to do, and realized the answer to be practice faith. Exactly. We do. We have to stay a little bit ahead of time and really stay focused on what we want to happen, you know, and stay focused on the feeling of how we're going to feel once it happens. You know, like I may not be able to convince myself I'm going to be a millionaire next week, but I may be able to convince myself I will feel like a millionaire next week, you know. So there's a huge difference in just these little tweaks with wording. But the AA thing was pretty alarming when I heard that. Wow, I never thought about that. And now that I think about it, I've seen in movies where it'll be an AA meeting and the person goes up to the thing and the first thing they say is, hello, I'm so-and-so and I'm an addict. And I was just like, oh my gosh, what are we need to not do that. You know, that program's helped a lot of people though. So I'm not saying go off the program if you're on it. I'm just saying let's redirect the self-talk a little bit. So let me pick up some more of these viewers over here. Let's see, Lisa and LaShonda. Thank you guys so much for being with us here this morning. Let me get back over to the screen where I can mute myself and let somebody else talk here.
Yeah. I have so many thoughts swirling too, like Dan, that hard to put into words. But Karen, when you wrote there, what else do I have to do? It reminded me sending blessings up to Dr. Wayne Dyer. Many of you know that he passed this week. But I watched his movie, which is free to watch until September 8th, The Shift. So if anyone wants the link, you can send me a message for the free link for that. But he's talking in the movie about like finding your purpose or your dharma. And I know I've had many moments in my life, and even currently a little bit, like what am I here for? Like I keep feeling like there's something more, and I struggle with it a lot. And when you said that, what else do I have to do, Karen, it reminded me of that, because in the movie, Wayne was talking about, you know, sort of not getting in that mode of do, but more like what you were speaking about, Dan, like practicing faith, and the answers will come to you if you just relax and surrender. I love this in what Wayne said in the movie about, you know, from the moment of our conception up to 9 months, we are taken care of. You know, the universe, and we are held, we are taken care of. And why, when we're born, do we lose that? We should always be in that place of like we are taken care of, like we were in the womb throughout our lives. So, you know, not going into that do. And I think a lot of people struggle with that when they are looking for their purpose. Maybe I'm getting off topic, but anyway, when they are looking for their purpose, that they're trying so hard, and rather more surrendering and having that faith, and you know, looking to what do I want to be and how do I want to be, and holding that faith and trusting that the answers will come and you'll find that. And all that stuff you said, Dan, I took so many notes. I loved it, you know, and it reminds me a lot of Neville Goddard's stuff too, that I've been really delving into deeply a lot, you know, just really walking by that faith, not by what's in front of us, because like you said, what's in front of us, we just create more of that if we're focusing on that. If we want to change something, we need to have faith and focus on that thing that we want to have changing or different, and it comes to fruition. So that's it for now.
Hi, Dan. I love your comments, your story. I'm definitely going to try the mirror. At this point in my life, I feel like as I go further along, it's just something there that's trying to keep me from going forward. So I'm definitely going to try the mirror because I do believe that I am worthy of greatness. And the self-talk has helped me tremendously, not only my daughter, but with the self-talk, and I mentioned this last week also, that what's helped me a lot is to stay focused on gratitude. And what I do is throughout the day, I'll have my little, cell phone with me. And what I do is everything that's good that happens, I make a little note where I was at, or just something very small, so that at the end of the evening I can reflect on the day and just focus on that positive. And I do say it out loud. And I'm realizing that the more I become active in this, the more not only how I feel, but my environment and my surroundings, greater things are happening for me. So I just wanted to thank you for the mirror. That was huge, and I'm gonna do that. Like the drunk guy, he's sober. So when I'm going through something, I'm gonna look in the mirror and just whatever's going through, I'm gonna just fight it, because the self-talk is very, very important, and it helps us deal with the daily struggles of life, of just people and things that are not within our control, and how to deal with it, because everything is a learning lesson. It might seem like it's bad, but there is a learning process in everything. So thank you. That was I got a lot of value out of that. I'm almost speechless. It was great.
Mel, I just got a lot of value out of you noting down the good things happening every day. I'm definitely going to, I was just writing a note in the chat to thank you for that.
Yeah, it just makes you, for me, it just made me more aware of my surroundings, and not making judgment, and just, giving others an opportunity, so that I can make a factual decision whether this is someone I want to be around, or do I want them in my life, or do I want this in my life. And so I've made some pretty good decisions based on facts, because I was talking to myself and not getting emotionally involved, and it helped me a lot, tremendously. Thank you.
Wow, so Julia, you're actually using the self-right, the next method, then as well. That's terrific.
I had no idea.
Yeah, no, that's great. And going along with what you just said and what Dan said, and I think it's important. He was talking about we have to have this fantasy. We have to be able to look outside of of what is just right around us and what we can see. Another word I use, a lot of people use for it is vision. You have to be able to, you have to cultivate your vision so that you can then, see what it is that you want. And, they say seeing is believing. Well, that's a part of it. And then I just wanted to add that our actions tell our subconscious what we, if you really believe that this is going to help you, then you will take some actions to do the mirror trick, or do the writing, or just make that tape and listen to it every night. Because sometimes if you have to have the tape and you go to listen to it, you're like, well, maybe I won't do that tonight, and that's fine. If you decide you take responsibility for it and say, no, I'm not going to do it tonight. I'm just going to let my mind drift tonight. But then the next night you're on it. That tells your tells your subconscious that you do have belief in it, at least enough belief to take action. And then in a way, I think that makes your subconscious take notice that, hey, this is something that, this guy believes in. This is something that I need to take a better look at. So I think everything works together to come together and and help you. But if you don't cultivate the vision, and you don't cultivate your desire, your reason why you want to make it happen, you won't have enough fire to fuel or enough fuel for your fire to get you to take action and to get you to break through those barriers. So do whatever you can, use any of these tricks you possibly can to motivate yourself and elevate yourself to a point where you can use this stuff and benefit from it. So I'm so grateful to be here. It's so great to see everybody and all the comments online.
Jason, let me say real final thought there. You know, the guy said, Dr. Helmstetter said, going back to what everybody said, look in the mirror. He said, take counsel with yourself. That's what the doctor said here in his last closing remark. He said, take counsel with yourself. You've got a pretty good friend inside there. You see, he's just, like I said, he's confirmed everything that I didn't always know. I thought I knew, but he just come back and confirmed, I got a pretty good friend inside here. Take counsel with Donna. Hey, Donna, what we're going to do today? Well, I don't know. Well, okay, good or bad, it can work for you. Either way, it'll work for you. But let it be more good. Let it be more positive. It'll work for you, friends.
Thank you, Donna. That was nice.
Okay, we're getting up to the top of the hour here, so if anybody has any final comments they want to make.
Yeah, you know, when I was like 9 or 10 years old, I was downtown with my mom, a couple of my sisters, and my mom had bladder problems, so she was always scoping out the nearest bathroom, and it's like she couldn't go from it's like from store to store to store to go find a bathroom. So anyway, we was getting ready to leave, and she had to go find a bathroom, so I stayed at the car, and her and my sisters took off, and I was sitting there by myself, and like I said, I was pretty young, 8, 9 years old, maybe 10 at the most, but I heard a guy come down the street, and I heard this conversation going on, and I mean, it was a pretty heated debate that was going on, and I turned around to look, and it was just one guy, and he was talking to himself, and you know, there is a crazy talking to yourself, you know, and that's what this guy was doing. In fact, just about 2, 3 weeks ago, there was a guy walking down, a young guy, you know, and he's walking down the street from my house, and I was out there doing some work in the yard, and he was doing the same thing. I mean, he had a real rousing conversation going on, you know, and so there is a crazy talk, you know, and my personal beliefs, I believe that it's in part is tied to a lack of forgiveness. Somebody hurt you in the past, and there's the inability to forgive, and so you get stuck there, and you can't move on from that. But that's just my theory, and so anyway, there is a crazy kind of talking to yourself, but then there is a motivational talking to yourself where you know, it's constructive, it's not destructive, you know, and it's just so important to have that constructive self-talk going on. And it's, you know, it's like I talked about earlier. I mean, so many books I read, and I see it in the scriptures too, that words are seeds, and that, you know, your heart, the human heart, not the blood pump, but the core, the inner human, who you really are, has to be programmed, and it's just like a computer in a sense, and it has to be told what to do, and that's where that constructive self-talk kicks in, you know, using positive phrases that you speak over and over and over again, and you know, whether that's just one time a day or 100 times a day, or if you want to put it on steroids 1,000 times a day, but it is a matter of telling yourself where you want to go in life, and the person that you want to be, you know, and just like a computer program, there's a phrase, GIGO, G-I-G-O, garbage in, garbage out, you know. So, you know, is it garbage coming in and garbage coming out of your mouth, or is it good positive stuff coming in and going out of your mouth, and then you know, that it comes out of your own mouth, but it also wraps around and comes right back in your own ears, and then you have what's called bone conduction, which is like mainlining mainlining heroin, if you will, shooting it into your veins, and what you say, there's bone conduction that mainlines that right into your heart, right into your spirit. And so the things that we say, even when we're not talking to ourselves, even when we're just talking to somebody else, do we buy our own BS? Do we make excuses for where we're at in life, or do we, come to the point where we say, I am responsible. I'm responsible for my failures. I'm responsible for my successes. I'm responsible for what I do and where I'm at and everything that comes out of my mouth, everything that I say. I am responsible, and facing up to that, forgiving people that have hurt us in the past, so that we can move on and get that, behind us, get that out of our way, and putting your eyes on the highway in front of you instead of keeping them on the rear view mirror all the time, looking at the past. So, yeah, I'm done.
Okay, anyone else have any closing comments? Or
I just want to thank everyone for their input. This has been a great mastermind, and I look so forward to the next chapter and having to share our thoughts and ideas on the next chapter. So this was great, and I wish you all a wonderful, wonderful week. And I'll see you soon.
thank you, everyone. So good to have you here. Danielle, I see you have to run, but thank you for being here. And thank you for all the wonderful comments. Dan, I completely agree with you. And it's some of this stuff is so insidious. If you're not you almost have to constantly be on guard. You really have to listen to what you're saying, because just this week, and it was hilarious when I realized what I was saying. I remember, and this is one of those things that comes from childhood. I had an uncle, not that much older than me, that had to babysit me a lot, and he always told me that I was a pain in his. I know I'm cussing a lot today. I don't know why that is. I'm trying not to cuss, but he always told me I was a pain in his. So you guys know that phrase. That is a phrase that I sort of picked up. And so just this last week, something happened, and I was like, oh my gosh, what a pain in the. And for those of you that don't know, my body actually has a condition where I do have pain there. And so I was like, oh no, I've been saying this my whole life about all these things, So that's a phrase I have to completely take out of my thing. But you have to be on guard for stuff like that, because the universe is so literal. It's frighteningly literal. It's like Twilight Zone stuff, I'm telling you. Recently Tom and I were watching a show, just a show just to get us away from everything, and the exact plot exact, and it's the most strangest plot you've ever heard of, but that exact plot, like a few days later, I was talking with a friend, and that very same thing happened to her, and I was like, I'm telling you, it's very Twilight Zone. So very, monitor your thoughts and what you say to yourself and what you say to others. And if the wrong thing comes out, that's okay. We're human, but go ahead and correct that. We can correct. But just realize how very literal the universe is. And we thank you guys for joining us, all the wonderful comments. And please, you can always find us at SaturdayMorningMastermind.com. We have a Google Plus community called Mindset Mastery Collective, so please join us over there. Go to our YouTube channel. Please like our videos, and if you're interested in our newsletter, being involved on our newsletter, then I think it's SaturdayMorningMastermind.com/newsletter. I hope that's right. If not, I'll put a correction in the event page. So thank you. I hope you all have a wonderful week. Watch what you say to yourself. And when you go to that mirror, make sure you can look yourself in the eyes and tell yourself, I love you. We'll see you all next week.